Hi everyone! Today might shift something inside you. Look at your life right now. If things are starting to feel weird, if your old certainties are melting away, and if you feel a strange sense of discomfort that you can't quite name, congratulations! You might think you are failing, but as a strategist, I'm here to tell you that you are likely on the verge of a quantum leap. Most people think that a financial shift is a loud, celebratory event full of fireworks. It's not. In the world of quantum mechanics and the sovereign initiate, the leap is a silent re-engineering of your internal frequency. It's the moment the old structure collapses because it can no longer support the weight of the wealth that is about to precipitate. If you came here looking for a feel-good message or a pat on the back, you're in the wrong place. We don't do positive thinking of almanac here. We do quantum engineering. Today, I'm going to reveal the 6 uncomfortable internal changes that happen right before the money arrives. These are the signs that the Maya, the illusion of your current scarcity, is losing its grip on you. But I only want to talk to those who are truly ready to cross the bridge. Before we dive into the first sign, we need to sign a contract of intent. If you feel that shift happening, or if you are demanding that it happens now, write our activation phrase in the comments. I am ready for the leap. This isn't just a comment, it's an anchor. It's you telling your quantum double that you are no longer a victim of circumstances, but a conscious observer of your own expansion. I'm Caroline, and what I've discovered while navigating my own identity transition is that the most painful moments were actually the most productive. Throughout this video, I will show you why your problems are actually preparations. Stay with me until the end, because I've left the books that decode this science and a free guide in the description to help you stabilize this new frequency. Subscribe to the channel now if you're ready to stop reacting and start commanding. Let's look at the first sign of the collapse. The collapse of old Maya, structural chaos. Listen to me very carefully because this is the stage where 99% of people give up, go back to their comfort zones, and stay broke for the rest of their lives. They give up right at the finish line because they don't understand the mechanics of the leap. When you start working with the quantum double, when you start demanding a new financial reality, the first thing that happens isn't a check in the mail, it's a collapse. Your old life, the Maya you've spent years building, starts to crack, melt, and eventually it falls apart. To the untrained eye, this looks like a crisis. It looks like bad luck. It looks like the universe is punishing you for being too ambitious. You might lose that job you hated but felt safe in. Your car might break down, a long-term client might suddenly leave. Even your relationships might start to feel strained and toxic. Most people react to this with panic. They pray, they beg, they try to fix the old structure with duct tape and willpower. But as a sovereign initiate, you must realize that this isn't a disaster. It's a structural demolition. Think about it like an architect. If you want to build a high-tech 50-story skyscraper where a rotting, termite-infested shack currently stands, what is the very first thing you have to do? You don't just start stacking luxury bricks on top of the rot. You bring in the wrecking ball. You level the ground. You dig deep into the dirt to create a foundation that can actually support the weight of the new structure. In your life, that termite-infested shack is your old financial identity. It's your old habits, your old frequency of lack, and the old social contract you signed with mediocrity. The quantum double is infinitely more efficient than your linear mind. When you set the intention for a financial shift, the double scans the archive of all futures and finds the shortest path to your wealth. But if your current life is physically blocking that path, the double will start removing the obstacles. If your current job is an energetic dead end that prevents you from reaching the frequency of millions, the double will orchestrate your exit. It feels like a firing to the victim, but it's a release to the strategist. In my own journey, when I was transitioning from the corporate insurance world to becoming a sovereign independent, everything seemed to go wrong at once. The security I thought I had evaporated. My old methods for making money stopped working. I felt like I was in a free fall, but that was the Maya collapsing. The universe was forcing me to stop leaning on the crutches of the past so that I could learn to fly in the quantum field. If the old bridge hadn't burned behind me, I would have probably run back to it the moment things got uncomfortable. You have to understand that Maya is a persistent illusion. It's a collective dream of scarcity that we've all been conditioned to believe in. When you start the quantum leap, you're essentially waking up from that dream. And when you wake up, the dream world has to dissolve. This structural chaos is actually a lagging indicator that your internal frequency has already shifted. The physical world is just a slow, dense reflection of your energy. If you've shifted your energy to wealth, but your physical surroundings still reflect scarcity, there is a massive tension. That tension is resolved through the collapse of the old and the precipitation of the new. Most people stay broke because they are terrified of the empty space. When the old job is gone or the old business model fails, there is a period of nothingness, a gap. This is the quantum void. The average person panics and tries to fill that void with anything: a lower-paying job, a desperate side hustle, a loan. They rush back into the Maya because they can't handle the silence of the void. But the strategist knows that the void is where the quantum leap actually happens. The void is the canvas. You must have the strategic arrogance to stand in the middle of your collapsing life and say, "I see the demolition and I welcome it. My new foundation is being laid." Stop trying to save things that are clearly dying. If a door is closing, stop trying to put your foot in it. If a source of income is drying up, stop trying to squeeze blood from a stone. The quantum double has already found a better source, but you can't see it because your eyes are fixed on the dying past. Malet's theory of the doubling of time explains that the information for your success is already here, but it can only land in a space that is prepared for it. You need to develop what I call initiate's vision. When a bill comes that you can't pay or a disaster strikes, don't look at it as a problem. Look at it as a disruption of the old frequency. Ask yourself, what old version of me is this situation trying to kill? Because once that old version dies, the new version, the one who is already wealthy in the archive, can finally take the wheel. The uncomfortable signs aren't there to hurt you. They are there to unglue you from a reality that no longer fits. You are outgrowing your skin. It's tight, it's itchy, and it hurts to shed. But you can't be a butterfly while clinging to the safety of the cocoon. The financial shift requires a total abandonment of the safety protocols of the broke mind. You have to stop being a manager of poverty and start being an architect of abundance. The first sign, the collapse of Maya, is the ultimate test of your sovereignty. Can you remain unshakable while the world around you seems to be falling apart? Can you maintain the frequency of "I am ready for the leap" when your bank account says otherwise? If you can, you've already won. The physical reality will have no choice but to rearrange itself to match your unshakable internal state. Remember, the double is not a magician, it is a navigator. It doesn't create money out of thin air, it aligns you with the timeline where the money already exists. But if you are holding on to the lack timeline with both hands, the double can't pull you into the new one. The collapse is simply the double prying your fingers off the old rope so it can hand you a much stronger one. In the next block, we're going to talk about the vibrational isolation, why you're suddenly feeling like an alien in your own social circle, and why your friends might be the biggest anchors holding you back from your millions. But for now, if you are in the middle of a collapse, take a deep breath. Stop fighting. Stop trying to fix the rubble. Watch it fall and know that your skyscraper is already designed in the quantum field. Vibrational isolation, the social detachment. As the old Maya starts to crumble physically, something even more profound begins to happen internally and socially. You start to feel like an alien in your own life. This is the second uncomfortable sign, vibrational isolation. Suddenly, the people you used to spend every weekend with seem different. Their jokes aren't funny anymore. Their complaints about the economy, the government, or their evil bosses start to sound like grating static. You find yourself sitting at a dinner table or in a meeting surrounded by familiar faces, and yet you feel miles away. To the untrained mind, this feels like depression or loneliness. You might think, what is wrong with me? Why don't I fit in anymore? But as a sovereign initiate, you understand that this is a technical necessity. Before we decode why this isolation is your greatest financial asset, I want to see who is already feeling this shift. If you've noticed that your social circle is shrinking as your vision is expanding, comment quantum access below. This is the signal that you are no longer entangled with the frequency of the masses. You are gaining access to a higher floor of the archive. In physics, there is a concept called quantum entanglement. When two particles become entangled, they share the same state, no matter how far apart they are. Human beings are the same. Most people are entangled with a collective frequency of scarcity. They feed each other's fears. They validate each other's realistic limitations. When you decide to take a quantum leap, your frequency begins to accelerate. You are moving from the slug pace of the 1% mind to the light speed of the quantum double. If you stayed closely entangled with people who are vibrating in lack, their energy would act as a gravitational anchor. They would literally pull you back down to the broke track of the archive. They don't do this because they are evil. They do it because your change threatens their Maya. If you can jump, it means they could jump too, and that responsibility is terrifying to them. So your double, your higher intelligence, starts to create a vibrational buffer zone. It makes you disinterested in low-level conversations. It makes you crave silence. It isolates you so that it can recalibrate your dial without interference. I experienced this deeply during my own identity transition. I lost friends I had for a decade, not because we fought, but because we simply stopped sounding like the same language. I realized that every time I talked to them, I had to lower my frequency to be understood. I had to pretend I was still worried about the same small things. That effort was draining the energy I needed to precipitate my new wealth. When I finally accepted the isolation, my business exploded. Why? Because I was finally radio silent enough to hear the instructions from my double. This isolation is a strategic quarantine. You are in a cocoon phase. In the cocoon, the caterpillar doesn't just grow wings, it literally turns into soup. It dissolves. If you were to open a cocoon and let other caterpillars in, the process would fail. You need this sacred loneliness to stabilize your new financial frequency. If you are constantly exposed to the poverty talk of your family or old coworkers, you are effectively infecting your quantum field with old viruses. The independent strategist knows that wealth is a private frequency. Look at the elite. The true sovereign initiates of history. They were always selective about their circle, not out of snobbery, but out of vibrational hygiene. They understood that you cannot build $1 million reality while participating in $1,000 conversations. If you are feeling lonely right now, stop trying to fix it by going back to old toxic habits. Embrace the silence. Use this time to tune into the tracks of the archive that contain your millions. Your double is using this isolation to show you who you really are without the static of other people's opinions. Most of your financial personality was probably just a collection of your parents' fears and your friends' limitations. In this isolation, those layers are being stripped away. It's uncomfortable because we are social animals, but you are becoming a quantum animal. You are learning to rely on the internal signal rather than the external validation. When you achieve quantum access, you stop seeking advice from people who haven't been where you want to go. You stop caring if they think your new business idea is risky or if they think you've changed. Of course you've changed. You are shedding a skin that was too small for the life you are about to inhabit. The isolation is the universe's way of saying, I'm taking you to a place where they cannot follow. Let them go. If you are in this stage, treat it like a high-level training camp. Read the books I've suggested, use the free guide in the description, and talk to your double. Your social life will eventually return, but it will be on a completely different level. You will attract other leapers, other strategists, and people who speak the language of abundance. But for now, cherish the weirdness. It is the sound of your old chains falling off. In the next block, we are going to talk about the mirror silence, the moment when your reaction to your bank account changes forever. This is the sign that the Maya has lost its power to scare you. The mirror silence, the end of reactivity. This is the sign that separates the beginners from the masters of the leap. I call it the mirror silence. To understand this, you must first understand a fundamental law of the universe. The physical reality you see around you right now, your bank balance, your debts, your current office, is not the present. It is a lagging indicator. It is the echo of who you were weeks or months ago. In quantum terms, the physical world is dense and slow. It takes time for your past vibrations to densify into matter. Most people are trapped in a reactivity loop. They look at their bank account, see a low number, and feel a surge of panic. That panic then sends a command to their quantum double to create more low numbers. They are reacting to a dead past as if it were a living present. This is like looking at a star in the night sky that burned out millions of years ago and thinking it's still there. They are fighting with a ghost. But when the quantum leap is about to happen, a strange and uncomfortable shift occurs. You stop reacting. You look at a disaster, you look at a bill you can't pay, or you look at a rejection letter, and instead of the usual heart-pounding anxiety, you feel nothing. A cold, strategic silence. This is the mirror silence. It's not that you've become lazy or that you've given up. It's that your consciousness has finally moved past the Maya. You have realized that the mirror cannot smile unless you smile first. As an independent strategist, this was my biggest breakthrough. I remember looking at a spreadsheet during my identity transition that should have terrified me. In the past, that spreadsheet would have kept me awake for a week. But that day, I just looked at it and felt a profound sense of, this is just data from a timeline I no longer inhabit. I felt a silence that was more powerful than any affirmation. That silence was the signal that I had finally unglued my soul from the frequency of lack. Within 3 weeks, the biggest contract of my career precipitated out of nowhere. Why does this happen? Because for the quantum double to bring you a new reality, you must stop observing the old one. In physics, the observer effect states that the act of observing a particle changes its behavior. As long as you are obsessively observing your debts with fear, you are locking those debts into place. You are pinning them to your reality with the needle of your attention. When you achieve mirror silence, you finally take the needle off the record. You stop observing the broke version of yourself, which finally allows that version to dissolve and make room for the wealthy version. This silence is often uncomfortable because it feels like apathy. Your family might even get angry at you. They'll say, "How can you be so calm? Don't you see the house is on fire?" But you aren't being irresponsible. You are being quantumly strategic. You know that running around the fire screaming only fuels the flames with more of the same energy. You are choosing to stand in the silent center where the leap actually happens. You are no longer a passenger screaming at the pilot. You have become the pilot who knows exactly where the plane is going, regardless of the turbulence outside. Think about the archetype of the king or queen. A true sovereign doesn't panic when a messenger brings bad news. They listen, they remain neutral, and they look at the larger map. They know that a single battle doesn't define the war. When you stop reacting to the Maya of your finances, you are stepping into your sovereign archetype. You are telling the universe, "I am the cause, not the effect." The mirror silence is the ultimate gatekeeper of the leap. If you can pass this test, if you can look at the lack and not give it your emotional blood, the double understands that you are ready. You have proven that you are no longer a frequency slave. You have developed the quantum muscle required to hold a large amount of wealth. Because, let's be honest, if you can't handle a small debt without panicking, you certainly can't handle the complexity of millions. The universe is testing your vibrational capacity. If you are feeling this weird calm in the middle of a storm, do not fight it. Do not try to force yourself back into worry just because it feels more normal. This silence is the vacuum into which your new life is about to rush. It is the quiet before the big bang of your financial shift. Stay in that silence. Protect it. It is your most valuable strategic asset. In the next block, we will talk about the fourth sign, intuitive impulses. Now that you are silent enough to hear, your double is going to start sending you the coordinates for your new life. But these impulses are often illogical and uncomfortable, and if you don't know how to recognize them, you might miss the very door you've been praying for. Intuitive impulses, the voice of the double. Once you have achieved the mirror silence, the stage is set for the fourth and most illogical sign, intuitive impulses. Now that you've stopped the static of your 3 a.m. anxiety and the noise of your reactivity, you finally have the bandwidth to hear the signal. In the science of Jean-Pierre Garnier Malet, the double is not just a passive observer, it is a navigator. While you are sleeping, it explores the archive of futures and finds the most efficient route to the wealth you've commanded. But when you wake up, it needs to deliver that map to you. It doesn't do this through a formal email or a sky-written message. It does it through impulses. Suddenly, you feel a strange, almost uncomfortable urge to do something completely unrelated to your plan. You might be driving to work and feel a sudden pull to stop at a specific coffee shop you've never visited. You might feel a sudden itch to research a topic that seems totally outside your career field. Or perhaps you feel an intense impulse to call someone you haven't spoken to in 3 years. To the 1% linear mind, these urges seem like distractions or random whims, but to the independent strategist, these are quantum coordinates. This is where your logical mind becomes your biggest enemy. Your old self will say, "I don't have time for this. I need to focus on my spreadsheet." But the spreadsheet is based on 1% of the data. The impulse is based on 100%. Maybe at that coffee shop, you'll sit next to the person who has the exact contact you need. Maybe that random research will give you the insight for a business model that dissolves your debt in a week. These impulses are the double poking you to move your physical body to the X coordinate where the precipitation is waiting. As a sovereign initiate, I had to learn to trust these pokes over my own plans. In my transition, I once had a sudden urge to buy a book on a subject I thought I hated. Inside that book was a single sentence that completely re-engineered my marketing strategy and doubled my revenue. If I had followed logic, I would have ignored that impulse as a waste of money. You must realize that the double sees the shortcuts in time that your eyes cannot. This process can be scary because it requires you to surrender your strategy to a higher form of intelligence. It requires you to be spiritually agile. If you are too rigid, if you are too obsessed with your plan A, you will miss the quantum doors as they open and shut. You have to develop the ability to act without knowing why in the moment. The why only becomes clear once you've arrived at the destination. Before we continue to the fifth sign, let's make sure you stay connected to this flow of information. If you are getting value from this quantum deep dive and you are ready to master the mechanics of your own reality, subscribe to the channel now. By joining this community, you are telling the universe that you value depth over superficiality. It's a small action that helps us keep this strategic lighthouse burning for other sovereign initiates who are lost in the Maya of scarcity. The biggest challenge with intuitive impulses is distinguishing them from anxious impulses. An anxious impulse feels heavy, rushed, and stems from a need to fix something. A quantum impulse feels light, sudden, and carries a strange sense of excitement or curiosity. One comes from the 1% mind trying to survive, the other comes from the 100% mind trying to thrive. When you start acting on these light impulses, you'll notice that synchronicities begin to accelerate. People start appearing at the right time, resources show up just as you need them. It feels like the universe is conspiring for you, but it's actually just your double and your physical self acting in perfect synchronization. You are finally in the zone. You are no longer pushing your life uphill, you are surfing the wave of a future that is already yours. If you are feeling these pulls to change your routine or explore the unknown, do not ignore them. They are the breadcrumbs leading you out of the forest of lack. Your double has already walked the path. It knows where the gold is buried. Your only job is to be the boots on the ground that follows the instructions. Stop asking how and start saying yes to the impulse. In the next block, we are going to talk about timeline fluency, the moment when your perception of when changes and the crushing weight of financial deadlines finally begins to dissolve. Timeline fluency, the dissolution of anxiety. As you progress through the collapse, the isolation, the silence, and the impulses, you will reach the fifth and perhaps most profound sign, timeline fluency. This is the moment when your internal relationship with time changes fundamentally. Up until this point, you've likely lived as a victim of the clock. You've been obsessed with when. When will the money arrive? When will the debt be gone? When will my life finally start? This when is a vibration of lack. It is a constant admission that what you want is not here. But when the quantum leap is imminent, the weight of the when begins to dissolve. You start to experience what I call timeline fluency, a state where the future you desire feels so real, so vivid, and so certain that the delay in the physical world no longer bothers you. You move from the waiting room to the living room of your wealth. In the science of Jean-Pierre Garnier Malet, this happens because your conscious mind is finally vibrating in sync with the quantum double. You are no longer waiting for a future, you are remembering it. Think about a movie you've already seen. You know the hero wins in the end. When you watch it a second time and the hero is in a dangerous situation, you don't panic, you don't scream at the screen. Why? Because you know the ending is already recorded on the film. You have timeline fluency regarding that movie. This is exactly how you start to feel about your financial life. You see a cliffhanger in your bank account, but you don't panic because you've already seen the version of the archive where the hero, you, is wealthy. As a strategist, this was the moment I knew the identity transition was complete. The crushing anxiety of deadlines, the end-of-the-month terror, was replaced by a strange, fluid confidence. I realized that time is not a wall, it's a fabric that can be folded. If the wealth is already a fact in the quantum field, then its arrival in the 3D world is just a matter of densification. It's like waiting for a large file to download. You don't worry if the file exists, you just let the progress bar move while you go about your business. This fluency allows you to make better strategic decisions. When you are in a rush for money, you make desperate, low-vibration moves. You take bad deals. You work with toxic clients. You over-leverage yourself. But when you have timeline fluency, you have the sovereign patience to wait for the high-level opportunities. You move with the grace of someone who already has millions. And ironically, the moment you stop chasing the time folds, and the result precipitates much faster than you ever imagined. You'll notice that your perception of past and future starts to blur. You stop blaming your past for your current situation, and you stop begging your future to save you. You exist in the vertical now. You understand that every second is a fender, a gap where you can choose a different track in the archive. This is the ultimate freedom. You are no longer a slave to your family history or your old failures. You are fluent in the language of infinite possibilities. If you find yourself feeling a strange lack of urgency, even though your external situation still looks urgent, do not let your logical mind talk you out of it. Your 1% mind will call it denial. Your quantum double calls it alignment. You are finally letting the pilot fly the plane without trying to grab the controls every 5 minutes. You have accepted that the destination is a mathematical certainty. This state of fluency is where real magic, or what we call quantum precipitation, happens. When you are no longer pushing against time, time stops pushing against you. You become a superconductor for wealth. The resistance is gone. The static is gone. You are just a clear channel for the information of abundance to turn into the matter of abundance. In the next and final block, we will talk about the checkmate feeling. This is the ultimate sign, the point of no return. I will show you how to anchor this feeling, and I'll give you the final roadmap, the books and the tools to ensure that your leap is not just a temporary spike, but a permanent new reality. The checkmate feeling. Absurd certainty. We have reached the final and most powerful sign of the quantum leap, the checkmate feeling. This is the point of no return. In a game of high-level chess, there is a moment where the grandmaster looks at the board and realizes that although the game isn't physically over, the victory is mathematically inevitable. The opponent might still have pieces, they might still move them around, but the outcome is already written. This is exactly what happens in your internal world right before the financial shift completes its precipitation. You wake up one morning and you just know. It's not a hope, it's not an affirmation, and it's certainly not wishful thinking. It is an absurd certainty. You look at your debts, your old life, and your current challenges, and you smile at them with the pity of someone looking at a ghost. You have reached the frequency where the wealth you've commanded is so dense in your internal field that its physical appearance is merely a formality. This is the ultimate identity transition. You are no longer trying to be wealthy, you are simply waiting for the physical world to catch up with the fact that you already are. As a strategist, this is the state of sovereignty. You have moved through the collapse, the isolation, the silence, and the impulses. You have mastered the fluency of time. Now, you stand at the center of your reality as a fixed point. You are the cause, and the money is the effect. The search is over. The hustle is over. You have achieved the checkmate over scarcity. From this moment on, your only job is to remain in this frequency and not allow the old Maya to distract you with its dying gasps. The quantum double has finished the bridge. The information has been gathered, the future has been selected, and the precipitation has begun. You will find that opportunities start to fall into your lap with an ease that would have terrified your old self. You don't chase anymore, you receive. This is the forbidden success that the masses will never understand because they are too busy fighting with the pieces on the board, while you have already won the game in the archive of futures. Before we conclude, I want to take a moment to truly thank you for staying with me until the end. Most people would have clicked away at the first sign of discomfort, but you didn't. You chose depth. You chose to understand the mechanics of your own power. It has been an honor to share this journey with you, and I am deeply grateful for your presence and your commitment to becoming a sovereign initiate. If this roadmap resonated with your soul, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. By doing this, you are helping us build a community of independent thinkers who refuse to be slaves to linear time and scarcity. Your support is what allows this channel to remain a lighthouse of high-level strategic wisdom. Now, it is time for you to stabilize this leap. I have included the links to the essential books that decode the science of the quantum double and the archive of futures in the video description. These aren't just books, they are the manuals for your new reality. Also, as a special gift for this community, I've left a free PDF guide in the description about the meaning of mirror hours. When you start this transition, your double will use these numerical codes to signal that you are on the right track. This guide is your GPS to understand the messages the universe is sending you during the 40-day stabilization period without losing your mirror silence. Thank you once again for being here, for watching, and for being part of this movement. Your quantum leap is not coming, it is happening right now. I'll see you in the next video, where we will continue to strip away the illusions and reclaim your throne. Go in peace, and remember, the game is already won. Checkmate.